you all for coming out. It looks like there's some residents that are out and about and busy today, so I'm glad that you made this part of your afternoon, and we all look forward to hearing from Kerri, who is Assistant Professor of English at McPherson College, and we're very happy that she has some students that are along, and maybe one more, so we'll make him welcome if he's able to arrive as well, that we'll be sharing. Right now, we are really very glad to learn more from Kerri and from the students about the creative writing scene at McPherson College, and I'll let her do a short introduction of them and what's going to happen this afternoon. So thank you, Kerri.
Hi, as you all probably know, I'm Kerri Snell, and I'm in my second year as an assistant professor at McPherson College. I teach writing courses. One of the courses that I teach in the spring, if I have enough enrollment, is creative writing. And so I spend my fall recruiting freshmen and trying to talk them into enrolling in creative writing, so I get to teach that. But I have with me some students from our newly formed writing club, which is it's not for course credit, it is just a volunteer club. And the name of our club is MC Writes. We've only met once, and our intention is to meet at least once monthly to workshop our writing together, and then hopefully to be able to publish some of the content that we produce in an online creative arts journal this spring. So you can look for that. I'll have more information about our website and a particular project that I'd like to get some of you involved in after the students read. One of the goals I have after entering an M.F.A. program in my 40s, and having the experience of, for the first time, sharing my work, my poetry, with people other than my family members and my pets, or the anonymously the poem that gets published somewhere and no one that I really know has any idea it's there, so I could hide in that respect. I have told this to my students. I was having internal panic attacks in the beginning of this process because workshopping is so much more vulnerable than sharing in a group discussion in classes or discussing a topic that your professor has assigned you to talk about, because it's very close to home, it's very personal. And so I want, one goal I have for these students is that when they leave McPherson College, they will feel very comfortable sharing their work. And it requires an audience, and so I thank you for being, some of these students, probably their first audience. I think this is probably their first time to share creative writing with an audience from a podium with a microphone. So I'm excited. I want you to get a feel for the kind of talent that I encounter from these freshmen. I have 2 freshmen over here and 1 sophomore. 2 are currently Composition 1 students of mine, and Joyce was it Composition 1 and 2? Composition 2 last spring. So I know these students well, and they are going to be the core of this creative writing group that we're attempting to get going on campus. We hope to build momentum. We hope by the time that this group of freshmen are seniors that our membership will have grown, and that we'll have many submissions to consider for this online journal that we want to publish in the spring. Let me just introduce them. Because they are such terrific students, they already have a million things to do other than my class. So I'll introduce each one as they come. I'm going to have Michael read first. Michael will share, he's going to actually share an essay that he just wrote for Composition 1. And what we were attempting to do is to write the descriptive essay. And I think he, as well as Allison, they both achieved really what I was looking for in the essay. And we talked about trying to emulate and capture the timelessness aspect of E.B. White's Once More to the Lake, which is a famous essay that some of you may have even read before. And I think Michael really achieves that, looking back, moving into the present, and yet it's all unified. It makes sense, and we are on that journey with him as he reads. So he'll share that, and then he has a short haiku poem that he also will share. And I'll just have you, Michael, before you begin reading, you'll need to get that microphone on. And you'll want to say maybe a few words about your interest in writing, where you're from, a major if you've decided on that, and just brief information. And then after he finishes, I'm sure you will want to applaud, and that will be a good time if you want to ask Michael any specific questions. Ask it then, because he may need to leave for another class. Okay?
My name is Michael Grohl. I am from Dayton, Ohio. I'm an automotive restoration student at McPherson College. But here's my first essay for Ms. Snell. It does not have a title, but anyways, what once was holy is now a graveyard of memories. The home of my grandparents owned when they were married was a magical place. Now it is a place that has changed too drastically that I can't stand it. I had plenty of adventures and good times at that home, making it even harder for me to see it as it is now. Time and ownership have changed the home from what it was to what it is. Driving up the curly hillside road, you look to your left and there is a dusty, gnarled brush showered in shade by the large desert palms that line their drive. You make a sharp left turn and climb the mountain they call a driveway. Once you reach the summit, there is 4 distinct parking spots nicely marked by some tacky sun-cooked yellow paint on the dusty asphalt. There are 3 garages, and each one marked with the new tenant's name. If you walk to the back of the garage, you see a rickety, weathered staircase that rises up to the room that used to be my grandpa's. It now serves as a studio apartment for some yuppie who likes to live a fast lifestyle and has a little too much money for his own good. If you walk to the large, hand-carved oak front doors, you see the hand-carved bench I was taught to tie my shoes on as a child, pushed into the corner and littered with waxy foliage from a small tree planted when my grandparents bought the house. You knock on the old doors, and it will swing open almost immediately. The small Indian man who now owns the place stands there with a huge smile on his face and beckons you in. Raj is a very nice man, always accommodating and helpful. Raj will give you the keys to my childhood castle and be gone until you are ready to leave. The entryway that used to be lined with my grandma's trinkets from her travels to China have been replaced with cheap reproductions of fine art. You continue to the den where we used to celebrate Christmas. It still has the old riverbed rocks that line the walls, and the grand fireplace still has the driftwood mantel that my grandpa had commissioned and brought home from California. There has a slight stale scent to the room because the place hasn't been aired out since the last renters. Contrary to what I remember as a child, I remember the sweet scent of apples and cinnamons on the stove that used to cling to your nose when my grandma was getting ready for guests. As you wander into the kitchen, it has been fully redone with shiny stainless steel accessories and dark wood cabinets that probably have only been used once since they were put in. They don't have the well-look used of their predecessors had. Directly behind the kitchen is the family room, whose grand bookcase has been removed and replaced with some classy media stand that matches the new couches. The whole place looks like it should be in a magazine instead of having renters in it. Trying to pick a new room is always a hassle now too. I used to stay in my mom's old room, which is in the back of the house on the second story. It now also serves as a fancy new apartment. I used to be able to go sneak away for hours, sneak up the stairs and hide away. It has the best view of the valley on the balcony up there. The view is magical at dusk when all the lights come on and there's just the last tail end of the sunlight clinging to the mountain on the other side of the valley. Like my grandpa's room, though, it has been turned into a luxury apartment for some young businessman and his wife. Once you pick a room and unpack, it's usually cool enough to go outside to the deck and pool. The pool where I learned to swim, my grandpa just chucked me in and said, "Sink or swim." The pool has been cleaned up and repainted so it looks almost as it once did. The wood grill my grandpa put in is still there and as true as the first time I laid eyes on it. The hummingbird fountain that used to stand next to the grill is gone now and has been replaced with an ugly bush. There is no longer the glass table by the pool. That has been replaced with a small sitting area. The balcony of the main house has been completely redone. No more red clay bricks or black metal guardrails. It is now river rock and glass. They did add this fancy new fireplace that's nice at night. The change that sets my heart on fire with rage is that there are no more roses. My grandfather planted 45 rose bushes as an anniversary present to my grandma. They are all gone now. They were beautiful, and when they blossomed, the whole world could see them in their glory. Their smell erupted from them like a perfumery in full swing. The petals and leaves danced in the wind as it swept by. The colors played in the dusk like as I once did. Now they are all gone, and memory of them hangs on the home like a body to a graveyard. It is no longer my castle, it is my memory graveyard. I do not like to return to this home. It once was holy and magical and now seems like a product of industry. I miss the way it was and can't understand why my family likes to return there. Some is the same, but it has changed too much for me. The owner isn't my grandparents, and the house isn't what it was. It'll always hold a place in my heart, but won't always be a holy place. And now for my haiku, The Calm Before the Storm. The rain falls softly, wind rustling the trees gently, the gray skies loom. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Michael? Michael, stay up there.
Were you a writer in high school?
I was not. I was on the wrestling team and worked on cars. That's about it.
And what are you doing writing, creative writing?
New experiences open up all the time, and I found I really enjoy it in college. Yes, in the way back.
Yeah, I just want to say I really enjoyed your writing. I think you express things very well. You have some excellent parts in there with metaphors and similes and all that kind of stuff that comes out very nicely. And, so congratulations. I thought it was very well written.
Well, thank you. Anyone else?
It was very descriptive. I could actually picture it as you read.
Thank you.
What is your writing doing to you?
It is making me want to change my minor to journalism. So it's going very well. I really like it.
You could be an auto journalist, right? You should be you could become an auto journalist.
That's the plan so far. Well, thank you all for your time. I will let someone else come up and read you some of their works.
Yeah, I want to add that I hope, this is all still in the planning stages, but these Composition 1 students, regardless of which professor they have, they write their hands off, really, or they type their hands off, most of them. And I'd like to see some of the best essays from Composition 1 and Composition 2 find a home in our online journal as well. And certainly Michael's would be a strong candidate for that. He really took on the assignment and achieved really more than I expected from a freshman. And so definitely one of the stronger essays. I will have Joyce Muhisi come up and go next. Joyce is our sophomore today, representing the sophomore class. And Joyce, go ahead and introduce yourself briefly, and then you can read your poem.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Yep. All right. My name is Joyce. My last name is Muhisi. I am from the Congo, DRC, and I'm very excited to be in McPherson. And I'll be reading something I wrote from just a prompt that she gave us. And it just says, "Someone I love once gave me a box. All right. Someone I love once gave me a box. This box is known to give life its meaning and value. He told me that this box would be one of the things that would push me to be better, that it would sometimes be heavier than I bargained for, that though I would need help, there would be moments where I would need to carry it alone. This box wouldn't look exactly like anybody else's, but that was okay. Many would criticize it, but that this box was to be protected and never be abandoned. Someone I love once gave me a box that has often brought frustrations as well as unspeakable joy. It has brought a drive that would have never existed otherwise. Although the box requires hard work to maintain, this box is the reason why I will never stop being passionate. It is the reason why I stand before you today. God, who loves me more than I love him, gave me this box, a box that he has been slowly unpacking as I grew. This box was full of dreams and passions, full of purpose. A purpose that I did not choose, but that I would later find to be fitting for me. A purpose I live to fulfill every day. Thank you. All right. Any questions for me?
Yeah, questions for Joyce?
Joyce, do you find it more difficult to write in English than in French?
Actually, it's the other way around now. Yeah, because I was born in a French-speaking country, and then we moved when I was about 9 years old, and so a lot of my, I would say, like, academic years have been in English, and so I lost a bit of my French, and so it's not as accurate as it is in English. So I would say it's the other way around. Unfortunately, my dad's not happy about that, but it's okay. Yeah. Anybody else?
How did you happen to select a box as your metaphor for this piece?
Well, Kerri Snell kind of gave us that prompt, and so I thought of writing a poem about just maybe hurts and pain, but I thought, no, not today. So I try to do a bit of a positive and how, your purpose in life, it has, it's heavy sometimes, it's great, it's fun, and it makes you passionate, or, it can get you frustrated because nobody else understands it. And so it's just like, it was something I could play around with and still use a box to kind of contains it, yeah.
Were you a writer in your previous life?
I wouldn't say so, but I take notes everywhere all the time. So yes and no. I guess I never got that title, but I would say yeah, a bit. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joyce. And our next reader is Allison, and she is a freshman as well. So Allison, go ahead and follow the lead and introduce yourself and then share your poem.
Hi, my name is Alison Penalba. I'm a biochemistry major. I wrote a poem that is Petals of Flowers. Hanahaki, the disease of lovers that makes you throw a lot of flowers. And like the night and the day, it appears leaving nobody safe. When you're a kid, petals of daisies appear, marking innocent love as it may seem. Gradually, the carnation flower rises from the mouth of a charming admirer. However, nothing should be lovely, because once daffodil, a yellow flower that from your lips will pick, showing that you're an unrequited lover. Love not always innocent is. Sometimes unpleasant will be, and the bright crimson rose represents the pure conditional love. However, it spines that painful are, showing that you have to work hard. For your emotions, your need will become. As everything that starts, one day you have to say goodbye. A white sweet pea will come for saying farewell to your love. Any questions?
Where are you from?
I'm Okay, if you tell me where I'm from, where I come from is Virginia, Octon, Virginia, and where I was born is El Salvador.
Do you find writing in English or Spanish easiest?
I would say Spanish because I spent 16 years studying Spanish, writing in Spanish and everything. So, but because of the kind of words that I can get out from Spanish that are more specific, more descriptive, and in English I have to think it about it, translate it to see which one I want the most. Yeah.
Do you see writing as something major in your life for when you are grown, like in a job or in the future?
Writing is important for me, and it's also a way to relax me from all the stress because I'm a biochemistry major, so I get a lot of science, and sometimes I want just to write and be relaxed. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
So the poems and writing that these students have shared, obviously Michael submitted his essay, was for a grade in my class, but these other poems would be an example of, they have just written these are first drafts. And we've only met as a creative writing club once, and we sort of determined what we want to do with our group. So these would be examples of poems that they would bring to workshop and would read for the workshop group. And then we would talk about, what we try to stress is not how can the poem be made better, because obviously it's beautiful as it is, but how could it be made differently or formed differently, and what different decisions could the writer make? We also look at where are places in some of the pieces that we might be confused. In these cases, probably nowhere, but there are poems and stories where when you're trying to write from your own mind, it makes perfect sense to the writer and not perfect sense to the audience. And so workshop is a great place to try out works on an audience for the first time, and then also to get feedback in terms of what the positives are in the piece, what created the most emotional reaction, were there questions, ambiguities that need to be made more concrete. And in the case of particularly the box poem, that's a great example of using ambiguity. There's a definite metaphor in the box and the containment, but she never really tells us this is what's in the box, right? A writer could say, oh, here is a shoe in the box, and then the shoe could tell the story, or whatever the concrete item is. She didn't choose to go there, but it's a great example of where more ambiguity can create its own specificity, is how I would explain that. And I think she did a wonderful job. But in workshop, we would throw out that question, what do you think? What would it be like if there were more concrete items in that box, and how would that change the poem? And then she, the poet, one thing that you have to learn how to do when you workshop is not only to be able to take criticism pretty well, but also to be able to judge for yourself and remember that you are the writer, and you own that idea, and it's yours, and you don't have to take every suggestion. And so whatever suggestions we make, they're just suggestions, and it's completely up to the writer how he or she might change that poem or that story. Why do we do that? I have often called writing workshop as the root canal you sign up for, right? And you just keep going back for more and more. And then sometimes you think, what is wrong with me? I just drove 60 miles to just, feel completely exposed. But the reason we do that is because we want our writing to get better. And no matter, even Emily Dickinson, who, wasn't discovered until after she died, or poets, I wrote for many, many years and didn't share with anyone. But we're always truly writing for an audience. It may be a completely constructed audience, it may be a fictitious audience, but we're always writing for an audience. And poetry, stories are meant to be shared and told. And no matter what the writer says or believes at a certain time in life, we write stories to share and to tell. And so one of the reasons workshopping works so well and helps writers is because I can find out in, for example, workshopping with Michael, for example, I will see something in his writing that may be a weakness in my own writing that I will never be able to see because it's too subjective and it's too close to me. But in workshopping with others, we often watch other writers progress and fix their mistakes, and in the process, we fix ours. And it is really true. When I was in graduate school, there was this one poet that I happened to be in workshop with time and time again, and we wrote about completely different subjects. I mean, he was much younger than I was, and he was mostly at a point of angst about being single and wanting to be married or, wanting to have a significant other. And I, on the other hand, was in my 40s. I had 4 kids, and I had a very significant other and no plans of getting a new one, right? So we were in different places in our poetry, writing about completely different subjects. And yet, in his poetry, I was able to encounter what I was really doing wrong. Because when I would read his poems, some of the times his imagery would not make sense to me. And we would say, Robert, we don't get it. What are you trying to say? And then my poem would come around and same thing. Kerri, this is beautiful, but we don't really understand what you're trying to say. And so through reading Robert's poems, I was able to finally experience for myself, because I learned the hard way, that the way that he was making me feel when I read his poems is exactly how I was making my audience feel, right? So that is the value of poetry or writing workshop. And I think it has a really significant place in the teaching of writing on a college campus. It's not only for English majors, it's not only for students who love creative writing or who believe that they want to publish in the field of creative writing. It's for any student who's interested in thinking creatively or interested in trying something new. And what we often find is, and my hope is that students such as these 3 will find that, if you're talented in the sciences, you're already thinking creatively. Creative writing is not a little pigeonhole that a few of us fit into. It's a part of the creative or the critical thinking process. It's one way to learn how to do that better. And you can apply that to whatever your major is, including automotive restoration, biochemistry, or whatever it is that these students might ultimately earn a degree in. So I'm excited, as I think you can tell, about this group of freshmen and the sophomores, and I have 1 junior. And we really hope to just develop a presence this year on campus. And if you look at, there's a page in your handout providing information about our club. We do have a website. It was newly created for us. I have not posted anything on that site yet, but I plan to do that this weekend. And as soon as we get some posts on the site, Brian Lundberg will create a link so that you can go to the main McPherson College website, and there should be a way for you to find the MC Rights web page. And Kara Hudson and I plan to post at least weekly on this page, and we'll be posting about writing. We might be sharing some of the writing that is generated from our club. Hopefully we might share some writing that you all submit, and I will get to that at the end of my presentation. But we do have a website. We're on Twitter. I am the main Twitter person, so don't expect regular tweets, but I am going to try to get in the habit of that, at least publicizing what we're doing and posting links once in a while. And you can also go to, if you're on Facebook, you can like the McPherson College English page, and that's where I'll be posting information about the writing club, is on that McPherson College English page. And I have written all that down for you. So please like us and join us, and you can keep up with us online if that's something that you regularly do, okay? Any questions?
people still write today?
Good question.
Are you concerned about that?
It's a concern. What I try to approach the dilemma as a teacher, how I try to approach that is to try to remember that students, the ideas are there. They may not be spending as much time as previous generations in front of actual books, but they are reading digitally, they are reading online, and they are, as you can tell from today, now these are my best and brightest, but I'm continually amazed at the intellect of the students in my classroom at McPherson College. I find them challenging, positive, fun, funny, and oftentimes in freshman writing, some of them have been convinced from high school experiences that they don't know how to write or they aren't good at writing. And so I try to approach it from the sense of you're thinking, right? We're all thinking, and writing is just a way to communicate what we think. And if the ideas are there, you're always playing catch up as a writer, no matter how good of a writer you are. You're always playing catch up to the ideas. And so I just try to slow it down for them and really encourage all of the students that writing is not something you're born able to do. It's hard work. And for most of us, unless you happen to be a prodigy of some sort, it's really just like the hard work that we've all done in our lives. It's discipline, it's finding time to write every day. And so that's one of the things we'll do in our club is really just take 20 minutes and spend time writing. And the students want to do that, and it really helps. It gives me time to write as well. So writing is like anything else. You can improve substantially by putting time in and doing it. Any other questions? Yes?
Through the years, I've written quite a bit of poetry, and at one time the Brethren Church had a young people's magazine that we got, and that was my first poem that was published when I was in high school. But the thing that I've done through the years, I always write a poem for our grandchildren when they start kindergarten.
Oh, that's
so I got that all, except that then I had a great-granddaughter start kindergarten this year, and so I almost missed it, but I got it written before she started and went over and read it to her and gave her a copy.
That is wonderful. I'd love it if you'd share the poetry with me sometime.
I said she's going to Washington School where her dad and her grandfather and her two great uncles all went to the same school.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of interesting to...
Yeah, that's a great tradition. It's a great school as well.
Are
Yes.
you seeing your vision impact student life or college life? That's an extended question. It may be too fast, too early in your career to answer.
It's a goal of mine. I have really lofty goals, but I don't like to always state them until I'm really sure I can achieve them, because I don't like to fail. I have this thing about failure, which we learn also in Workshop in Creative Writing, that, writing, if you have to learn how to fail. You have to write the fail all the time. It's another great lesson that we learn from creative writing. But yeah, I think it is early, but I do have some goals, including I'd love to get, there's a great poet at Sterling College. I'd love to get some of these regional poets and fiction writers on our campus to present to our students, and maybe even to talk, in our classes on a day. That's one of the goals I'm looking toward in the future, but not right now. So yeah. If you look on that last page, which talks about MC Writes, I've written some prompts. I wanted you to see an example. Many of the young writers like to write from prompts, and actually writers of all ages enjoy prompts. I'm not particularly a prompt-led writer, but I have found that many, and you've got to go, thank you, Gro. Many writers do enjoy and are stimulated from prompts, and so I try to provide them prompts in between the meetings, and when I teach creative writing, we begin almost every class with a prompt, and it's a choice. You may write from the prompt, or you may just free write. because if a student hates prompts, then it's not going to help them very much. But you can see that I've given you some, and my goal for that is that some of you would be willing to take one of those prompts on and write from it, and then share that with me. I've given you my email, and I'm going to provide the same prompts to some of my writers, and I'd like to combine whatever it is that's produced, and perhaps publish some of that on that web page at some point, because I think anytime people of different ages can get together, I don't think there's an age limit on the love of writing or the love of expressing yourself. And it would be really interesting for me, and I've talked to Kim Stanley about this, and she's interested in seeing, comparing what you all would produce with the same prompt as compared to these younger students. So I think it would be a really neat project. And I'm open to how, I don't know how that will all come together, but I would love to do something with it in terms of publishing it online, or perhaps another reading that we can do jointly. So, any other questions? I did provide you with one of my poems, and my plan for doing that was to show you that this is an example of a poem that, it's my most recently published poem, but it's not one that I really ever thought had a life of its own outside of the manuscript that it belongs in. But it was named a finalist in Ruminate Magazine's Janet McCabe Poetry Prize. So complete surprise to me, and I'm providing this as an example of one that if I read it aloud, I will stumble on this poem. So I'm quite certain that whoever named it a finalist in a poetry contest did not read this poem aloud, because it's still not quite right. So it's an example of a poem that, in my mind, still needs some work. I don't feel that it's finished, but here it is, it's a finalist and it's been published. So being the pragmatic person that I am and the busy person that I am, I probably now will never go back and revise it again. But if I were to read it aloud and take that time, you'd hear me stumbling over. There's just some places where the musicality of the poem is just not quite right. And so why that's important is, and I stress this with my writers, is, work is never, particularly in poetry, it's never really finished. I am more likely to say, oh, it's finished, and put it away and start something new than to go back sometimes and do that hard work of revision. And one thing that in freshman comp especially, often students have never really had to revise an essay before, and I always try to provide that opportunity, because if you look at writing as, this is not your best work, this is a draft. And this is a draft that you can go back and revise, and you can make this stronger writing. It sort of takes the judgment out of the grade. And it also gives the students the chance to revise their work, which is what writers really do. I mean, very few of us write the perfect poem and it's done. I have done that a few times, but most of the time it's only perfect in my mind. The rest of the world probably doesn't feel that way about it anyway. But writing, revision is really the work of writing. It's not the initial idea. It's not the beautiful first draft. It's that work after that first draft that really requires the work and the skill. And so when we teach writing, we stress at McPherson College, I know all of the professors in the English department stress revision for that reason. Well, thank you for letting me inflict my love of writing upon you. It's wonderful to have a job where I get paid to do this, because honestly, I love it. And I wake up in the morning thinking about writing. If you see me jogging for exercise, I'm writing in my mind as I go. And so this is just really a natural extension of being able to do something that I love. And I feel very blessed and very proud of McPherson College and proud to be a part of it. So thank you. Thank you.